You think you understand the people around you. You trust that you can sense when someone is unhealthy to be near, when a tone becomes hostile, when a glance hides contempt, when someone crosses a line. But what if the real threats don't announce themselves? What if the most dangerous people in your life appear supportive, affectionate, even indispensable? And while you're busy defending yourself from obvious villains, something far quieter and far more invasive is already making its way into your mind. Carl Jung, one of the great explorers of the human psyche, spent his career revealing the forces inside us that operate beyond our awareness. In works like Ion and the Ego and the Unconscious, he made a radical claim that much of what truly shapes our thoughts, feelings, and relationships is invisible to us. And this truth doesn't only apply to you, it applies to everyone you know. That's where the danger lies, because a person blind to their own darkness will, without knowing it, hand that darkness to someone else. And if you're not paying attention, that someone is you. How many times have you left a conversation feeling inexplicably exhausted? How often have you been cast as the cause of a problem you had nothing to do with, or found yourself trying to fix a mess that didn't even belong to you? Jung had a name for this: projection, the unconscious act of unloading what we cannot accept in ourselves onto another person. Once this happens, you're no longer seen as you. You become a symbol, an imagined villain, a savior, a rival, or a threat. And the longer you stay in that role, the more it starts to feel real. The worst part? You usually don't notice it's happening. It doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like empathy, like maturity, like helping. And yet, you're sinking into someone else's unfinished psychological business, letting their unresolved wounds dictate your reality. Jung warned us. The gravest dangers often come not from obvious malice, but from the unintegrated unconscious, the parts of a person they've never confronted. Such people aren't necessarily evil, but they are unpredictable, and because they don't understand themselves, they unknowingly become a hazard to others. The infiltration doesn't happen with shouting or threats. It happens with offhand remarks, with subtle guilt trips, with silences so loaded you begin to question your own worth. And when you lose contact with your own truth, you don't just live with their shadow, you carry it. Jung's writings help us recognize these patterns, not as psychiatric labels, but as psychological dynamics that any one of us could fall into if we aren't aware. Today, we'll examine 6 types of emotionally dangerous people Jung would have warned you about. Types defined not by conscious cruelty, but by unconscious compulsion. And we'll also ask a harder question. Could one of these types be living inside you? Let's begin. 1. The unwitting projector. At first, they seem deeply in touch with their emotions. They open up quickly. They share their pain. You feel honored to be trusted with their inner world. But over time, something strange happens. Their feelings start becoming your responsibility. Their anger, somehow, is your fault. Their sadness is because of you. Their insecurity is a reaction to how you are acting. This is the unwitting projector, a person whose inner wounds are too painful to face, so they assign them to someone else. Jung wrote that projection is an automatic process, one we all do, but that becomes harmful when it remains invisible. With the unwitting projector, you're not relating to a whole person. You're relating to a fragment of them, the piece they've disowned and handed to you. What makes this so dangerous is the subtlety. They don't scream accusations, they let you come to the conclusion yourself. And because you care, you try to help. But instead of healing, you end up hosting their unresolved pain. The more you engage, the deeper you're pulled into their emotional gravity. And the only way out is to ask the hard question: is what I'm feeling actually mine, or did I absorb it from them? 2. The mask bearer. Some dangers don't look like chaos, they look like perfection. This is the person who always says the right thing, always appears composed, never lets a flaw slip through. On the surface, this is admirable, but Jung saw a hidden cost. He called this the persona, the social mask we wear to adapt. Necessary, yes, but dangerous when mistaken for the true self. The mask bearer lives entirely for the role, the ideal employee, the model parent, the endlessly agreeable friend. And in sustaining this performance, they lose touch with anything real inside them. The result? Relationships with them feel rehearsed, safe but strangely hollow. And here's the trap. Because they avoid their own vulnerability, they also avoid yours. Express something raw and they withdraw. Show them your unpolished side and you'll feel the temperature drop. Over time, you start editing yourself too, matching their mask with one of your own. And without realizing it, the relationship becomes a stage play with no backstage. 3. The keeper of the sealed shadow. Some people repress so much that it becomes an art form. They've decided certain emotions, anger, envy, desire, are unacceptable, so they bury them deep. But buried feelings don't disappear, they ferment. Jung defined the shadow as everything we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves, and the stronger the repression, the more violently it bursts through. The keeper of the sealed shadow is calm until they're not. Their anger arrives suddenly and disproportionately. A small slight becomes a major offense. A harmless joke becomes an insult that lingers for years. Living near someone like this is like walking a field of hidden explosives. You don't know which step will set them off. And because they don't admit to these feelings, they often moralize against them, condemning in others what they deny in themselves. They believe they're avoiding darkness, but in truth, they're letting it build pressure until it demands release. 4. The righteous enforcer. Not all control comes from anger. Some comes wrapped in morality. The righteous enforcer positions themselves as the guardian of what's right. They speak in absolutes. This is how it should be. They present themselves as the standard everyone else should measure up to. But Jung warned, when morality is used to avoid one's own shadow, it becomes a mask for projection. The righteous enforcer sees wrong everywhere except within. They don't just want to live their way, they want you to live their way. They shame, guilt, and advise in ways that slowly make you doubt your own instincts. And the most dangerous part? They often believe they're helping you. The interference feels justified because it's for your own good. But what they're really doing is building a psychic cage, one you eventually step into willingly. 5. The complex-driven. Imagine talking to someone who changes without warning. One moment they're warm and affectionate, the next cold and accusing. This isn't calculated, it's a takeover. Jung described complexes as pockets of unprocessed emotion and memory that can seize control of our behavior. The complex-driven person isn't responding to the present, they're reacting to an old wound replaying itself. A small comment might echo a past humiliation. A harmless delay might reopen an old abandonment. And you, without meaning to, become the stand-in for someone who hurt them long ago. The problem isn't that they have these triggers, we all do. The problem is that they don't realize when they're in the grip of one. So the cycle repeats, and you end up adjusting your entire way of relating just to avoid setting them off. 6. The energy leech. Some people don't take your money, your possessions, or your status. They take your energy. The energy leech is constantly in need. of comfort, reassurance, your presence. At first, it feels good to help, but over time you realize you're running on empty. Jung noted that in unhealthy bonds, the boundaries between two psyches blur. You no longer feel like two individuals. You feel fused, and not in a healthy way. Their mood becomes your mood. Their crisis becomes your problem. What makes this so exhausting is that there's no endpoint. No amount of attention fills the void. And when you finally pull back, you're met with guilt trips or accusations of abandonment. Left unchecked, this dynamic erodes your sense of self. You start to forget where you end and they begin. Jung's answer was simple in theory, hard in practice. Make the unconscious conscious. That means noticing when you're feeling emotions that aren't truly yours. It means refusing to play a role someone has assigned you without your consent. It means setting boundaries, not to punish, but to preserve your own psychic integrity. And most importantly, it means turning the mirror inward. Because while it's easy to spot these patterns in others, Jung insisted we all carry the seeds of them within ourselves. The question isn't, do I know someone like this? It's, when am I like this? The 6 profiles we've explored aren't villains in a story. They are warning signs of what happens when a person refuses to face their own inner life. And the truth is, each of us has the capacity to slip into any of them. The real work isn't in labeling people as dangerous and cutting them off. It's in recognizing the patterns, protecting your boundaries, and committing to self-awareness so you don't become a danger yourself. If you've recognized someone you know, or yourself, in this video, that's not cause for shame. It's an opportunity. Because once you name the unconscious, it loses its power to control you. Leave a comment below. Which of these 6 have you encountered? And, more courageously, which have you caught in yourself? Your reflection might just be the mirror someone else needs. The next video will take you further into this work, from spotting unconscious patterns to actually transforming them. Because the more light we bring to the shadow, the less it can dictate our lives. See you there.